Hello and welcome to WazirX and CNBC TV18 present the Inventors Day. Well, an Inventors Day is set aside in the global markets by various countries to appreciate the things that have been done by the inventors here, the contributions rather. And today we are marking it with the invention that we have seen, or rather a disruption by now in sense of blockchain, and that too especially in the financial markets, in the financial sector over across the globe. Joining us for the discussion today is Mr. Ravinder Singh. He's partner at Kalari Capital. Also joining in is Raj Gopalan Menon. He is Vice President, WazirX. Gentlemen, hi, thank you so much for joining us. And it really has been about pandemic in last 18 months that has fast forwarded on what perhaps blockchain could have done. We have seen a huge acceptance in it. The innovations clearly have been at par. We've seen shipping companies to insurance companies to trade finance companies, all of them start taking notice of this. Some of them actually have started adopting it as well. So that's exactly the conversation is going to be today. More explanation on blockchain and transforming of it in sense of the financial sector. Raj, why don't you take it forward on how would you put the last 12 months in sense of adoption when it comes to blockchain within the financial sector?
Thanks for having me, Manisha. 12 months have been, I think, it's been a roller coaster ride. So for us in the crypto space, it has been particularly very interesting because it's put, people have been strapped and trapped at homes. They're looking for entertainment. They're looking for learning new stuff. They're looking for compounding, their savings. So all these things have come beautifully together, and we at WazirX are at in the eye of the storm that is enveloping the entire space. So a lot more people are looking at it because they've had the time to study it. A lot more people are getting into it because they see the financial, the ROI that people are getting, and the guys who had known about blockchain are now adopting it seriously because of the obvious benefits that it gets. So all in all, it's been an epic 12 months for us in this space.
Raj, when you look at cryptocurrencies, and that's a part and parcel of technology, and initially it was all about Bitcoin, and then came in some other cryptocurrencies. But when you look at January and when you look at September, and the kind of market share that various cryptocurrencies have also has changed. So why in Jan, 68% of market share belonged to Bitcoin, that has come down to 40% because people have moved on to other cryptocurrencies which have seen upgrades, which have seen better, which have come out with better use cases, etc. Would you say that's part of the technology as well, because people now understand the space?
So frankly, Manisha, when Bitcoin was invented by Satoshi Nakamoto, whoever he or she or they are, it was built with a particular use case. It was the first generation blockchain. So to be fair, cryptocurrencies have been around, or internet money has been around for a long time. What Bitcoin managed to do was it solved 3 or 4 problems together simultaneously, and that was the genius of Satoshi Nakamoto. It solved the double spending problem, it solved the Byzantine general problem, and it solved the security problem. So when those 3 things were solved, it became an instrument for store of value and also transfer of value. And presciently, and it's almost genius that this cryptocurrency was invented only for these 2 things. So the smartest people in the world try to do more with it. So you have Vitalik Buterin, who initially wanted to do much more with Bitcoin, but it is built in such a way that it could only do these 2 things, which is why he had to go about and build another language, which is programmable money, which is Ethereum. So what you're seeing is the evolution of technologies. So Bitcoin was, you could call the layer 1 or the first level. You have Ethereum, and I'm sure that there will be many more such cryptocurrencies that will come. But having said that, yes, there are more than 5,000 cryptocurrencies in the space, but the blue-blooded of them will remain, the top 20 of them, which have serious traction with users.
Rajinder, let's talk about the finance part of it now. And, we do a lot of explainers on various social media. And, let's de-jargon this first, and perhaps it means the same or different, but there are terms like CFI, DeFi, TradeFi, BlockFi. How would you look at various of these, and how would you explain it to our viewers?
Look, first let's look. Blockchain is a huge landscape, and it will not be right or prudent to see it only from the lens of what I call as politics of crypto. Crypto is a use case. Just to give you the gravity before, since you first word you mentioned DeFi, potential of DeFi to unlock value by 2030 would be $6 trillion, and it's a proven thing, and we can discuss about the thesis. Why blockchain is important and beyond these particular terms is because of three things which are happening in financial services per se or in any other industry. The use cases are beyond financial services, to be frank. In fact, touching even up to politics and democracy, enhancement of democracy. But financial services, regulators are not happy, customers are not happy, companies themselves are not happy. Look at banks, look at insurance companies, look at anything, right? So something has to be done. And what is the solution? I don't see any other solution apart from, distributed computing, and blockchain is basically stack for that distributed computing. What are the problems if you actually, and then I'll answer it very specifically. What are the problems, if you actually look at financial services today overall? Consensus is a huge problem, between any entities which participate in trade. Transactions are, and integrity of those transactions are being questioned almost on a day-to-day basis. Distribution of various events and how they come together to formulate a particular solution or a particular transactions are a great, challenge today. And then contracts, from a trading perspective, whether it is an airline or whether it is shipping, since you have mentioned shipping, or opening up a company in any other country, okay, it takes months and sometimes years to do that. So if you combine all these things together, then, DeFi makes a lot of sense in terms of decentralization of finance. CFI makes a lot of sense if you believe in a common denomination of a currency by a particular country, and so on and so forth. So let us look blockchain in the context of a next disruption, almost as an economy unlocking and taking this particular economy to a next level. I think it would be prudent to see it from those eyes.
Absolutely, fair point. I just want to come back to the financial challenges yet again. And yes, the operational costs, or whether it's about the real-time transactions, which blockchain as a technology intends doing. Raj, how are you looking at it? What is the potential? What is the kind of growth that we've seen and the kind of momentum that we are in right now? What challenges is it facing?
It's an interesting question. You can look at it from two ways, Manisha. If you look at it as to how do you get more people, it's a network effect, right? So how do you get more people to come into crypto? The first thing that they do, why do they come into crypto, is the rate of return. So when you have a Bitcoin which is growing by 200% CAGR over the last 10 years, you'll have even the most grizzled investment advisor or investor looking at it, even if it from a jaundiced eye point of view, but you have to look at it seriously, right? Because any asset that gives you 200% CAGR over 10% over 10 years, you can't discount it. That is the one part of it. The second part of it is how do you get other people? So once you get into it, then you realize that, okay, fine. It's not only that I get good returns, but there are other use cases as well. I no longer have to go via intermediaries. So what it does is that it gives services to users at a fraction of the costs that conventional or centralized finance gives. So for example, Ethereum does nearly 2 times the transactions that PayPal does. And it took only 5 years for Ethereum to do. PayPal, Elon Musk founded PayPal way back in 2000 or 1999, if I remember correctly. Ethereum was founded in 2015 or 16. In 5 years, it's doing double the transactions that PayPal does, and at a fraction of the cost that PayPal does. So when you look at the obvious reasons for customers to go to crypto, is cost saving, right? All of us want a good deal. When you have to pay 10 to 15% for remittance, which takes, 10 to 15 days for if it is a cross-country transaction. And with Bitcoin, you can do it theoretically in a matter of 10 minutes or shorter, and and almost for free. So you have a perfect storm waiting to happen. Low costs, high returns, a lot of people coming in, the network effect kicks in, and more, and it becomes a virtuous cycle. So all in all, what you're seeing is just the tip of the iceberg, because all you need is a smartphone and an internet connection. So if you look at India, it's almost a revolution waiting to happen here. So just like you had, the Geo revolution, which brought a smartphone in the hands of every Indian, you'll soon see, smart contracts deployed, hopefully, in the hands of every smartphone user in some time soon.
Well, yes, that is the expectation. But Rajendra, let me come to you, and I just want to take a leaf of what you said previously in your comment. Yes, we did talk about the cross-border remittances here. The major statement going out has been banking the unbanked, and it also has been about offering banking solutions to SMS, small and medium-sized partners as well, entrepreneurs as well. How much of that do you think have we been able to achieve in sense of numbers?
Not much. Look, we are at the initial stage. There, currently, exchanges, lending protocols, they have to stabilize, and they are stabilizing at a very fast rate. But there are issues which are related to hack holes with respect to contracts, especially not want to get into quite details, but in terms of code which is written surrounding smart contracts, or even oracles, which is basically hooks to an external world, which is very important. Everything cannot get into a decentralized zone. But having said so, look, the real curve of growth will come when banking per se will change. Micropayments will dramatically take crypto economy to a different level, and derivatives and tokenization will be the ultimate nirvana in terms of. So we are literally at a cusp of growth. We haven't seen anything, and I totally agree that. As even though we are at initial stage, look at the assets and the value of those assets which have been created in this. You can't negate that. So right, even from a hedging perspective or from a traditional asset management perspective, you can't do that. And if you just see that particular market itself, this market itself is worth about $20 billion market in terms of traditional to crypto asset management, and this is going to grow. So and that's precisely my point. We haven't even seen the growth with respect to what's going to happen, and I'm talking about 2030 and beyond, which is just nearby.
Manisha, you actually raised a very nice point here, banking the unbanked. Till I think 4 years ago, 70% of India didn't have bank accounts. It's a fact, right? Fortunately, you have a government that was determined to go out there and give every Indian a bank account. Now, the world over, you don't have such phenomena happening. Now, you have a base where everybody typically has a bank account. Now, what if, and the government is doing through the JAM Trinity, Jandhan, Aadhaar, and MS Mudra loans, okay, soft loans to these guys. But there is only this much that the government can do, right, to give easy loans to the people who need it the most. But the moment you go to a bank for a loan, what typically happens is that the red tape kicks in, right? Your credit history comes in, right? And these are the people who typically don't have the credit worthiness or the risk history that banks are comfortable giving loans with. So that is where the private sector comes in. That's where smart contract comes in, that Ravindra touched upon, where I have 1,000 rupees or even 100 rupees lying in my bank account. I can lend it to a poor farmer, somewhere in Bhuj or in Kutch or somewhere like that to buy seeds. It's a smart contract. I don't need to go via a bank. all you need to do is that you need to build a smart contract layer on top of, on top of the Aadhaar stack or the UPS stack. And smart contracts can make it happen. All he has to do is get the 100 rupees near instantaneously, buy his seeds and return it to me. There are no intermediaries involved. So the mixture or the hybrid model is what is going to make it really very interesting, because you have an Aadhaar stack, you have a Jam stack that is very unique to India. How can you build a crypto stack on top of that Aadhaar stack is going to be a very interesting use case that a lot of startups in India are looking at very, very seriously. And I'm sure Ravinder will be able to tell us more about it.
No, you amplify that. You amplify absolutely, in line. If you amplify that in a global context, why restrict to India or to China or to US? Why can't a person in a small village can basically also participate, even if it is fractionally, in an economy which is a global economy or a unit of that particular global economy? And that's the beauty of it. And frankly, when I talk about banking or when I talk about micropayments, in fact, I'm bullish about micropayments, because that would be a tremendous, both civilizational as well as upliftment. In fact, that's the true global democracy what we talk about, and that's the whole philosophy of distributed computing and blockchain. Just imagine, and I'm just taking this example, just imagine a person sitting in Bhuj. Why can't they have a fractional ownership of an asset which is in Norway? Or why can't a shipping company in Norway can have a fractional ownership of a unicorn, which is listed in India? And that's what I'm talking about. And let us not even restrict micropayments to lending. But there's an important point to be made over here, which is in terms of KYC. In fact, in fact, yesterday itself I met a remarkable founder who is trying to solve this particular problem of satisfying this KYC. And frankly, it is not a difficult problem to solve. Especially in the context of blockchain, it's actually a very easy problem to solve. Only thing is that there has to be diplomacy has to and democracy or people who create policies, they have to accept this particular norm as a norm, which is bound to happen, whether it is today or tomorrow. It's going to happen.
I get your point, Rajendra. I don't think it's about democracy. It's about regulations, isn't it? Because I know there are a lot of people who are investing in cryptocurrencies, and many would want to, just for the sense of returns, and that really seems to be the theme working right now. But they want regulatory clarity. Would you say, when it comes to technology, that's not even the point there, because that is something for people to adopt. Would you say the time-consuming and the costly trade finances right now, and that is the point both of you were trying to prove. Rajendra, would you say that this is perhaps the place to watch? I mean, this should go faster than perhaps a farmer in Bhuj. Trade finance, would you say, is the first thing that it should be get tracking perhaps?
Frankly, I don't know. Okay, if you go by the two aspects of democracy, which is equal rights and freedom of expression. Okay, freedom of expression. If I connect that with an equity, right, then that should be the focus. But there's other aspect of democracy is that will it turn around into winning votes and winning elections? I don't know. Okay, so if I go by the classical definition of upliftment or improvement of economy or a right to exercise my capital to anywhere in the world in a rightful way, my answer is yes. That should be the first focus, because platforms do that. And of course, there are going to be loopholes, there are going to be hacks, there are going to be frauds, but those happen even today. And ultimately, this cycle of improvement will continue and will stabilize at a particular end. So as a purist, yes. As a practitioner, I don't know.
Okay, that was
Manisha, you raised an interesting point about regulation. You said you were a little wary about investing in crypto. Bad girl, Manisha. Where is your WazirX account? But on a more serious note,
I have one.
Awesome. But on a more serious note, we don't give the government enough credit. This if the one particular quality of this government is practicality. When you are run by, I think, a Gujarati, practicality about money is, I think, a given literally here. If the government wanted to, they could have made lives very, very difficult for all of us in this space. But fortunately, they're giving us a little bit of elbow room, okay, and giving themselves time to understand how this space evolves. They're not making it very easy for us, in the sense that, there are issues that we have with payment gateways and so on and so forth. But they're not going the China way. If you look at what China is doing, it's absolutely, it's destroying the entire crypto industry and putting it 10 years behind where it can be. So what we are looking for is regulation. And I think it's only a question of when. It's not a question of if. All of us know that there are 1.5. I think there are 15 million users in this space. WazirX does $5 billion of transactions on a monthly basis. So the interest is huge. The consumers are there. Wealth is being created, and you know what? You can get taxes from this area. So why would a government want to shoot itself in the foot when revenue generation is paramount? So I know that it is a gray area, and a lot of serious investors, like family houses, will look at it differently because of this lack of regulation. But it's only a question of when. It's not a question of if or ban or something. We've gone long past those times. It's only how much, when, and it's going to be a calibrated effort, approach that this government will take. And I'm sure they are going to be very practical about it.
I'll just take it one step ahead, and Rajendra, this one is for you. Would you say that there's this big, wide gap when we talk about blockchain as a technology and within the financial sector as well? On one side, yes, there is a lot of potential here, but on the other side, the kind of innovations that we see, cryptocurrencies already are being invested, they are being traded, borrowed, lent, etc. There's a whole crypto bank thing that really seems to be making inroads, and how right now? How do we bridge this gap, right?
That's a leadership issue. Frankly, that's not a blockchain issue. That's a leadership, and that's a corporate leadership issue. Why were great Indian ITES companies not able to create unicorns in SaaS? Why they waited for Zomatos and Swiggy's and Paytms of the world to emerge? They had their customers. They had this domain knowledge. They had so many developers. And they had customers also, so that's more of a leadership issue. Look, new economies are coming up, and they are trying to say something to existing economies. Creator economies trying to say something, platform economies trying to say something, gig economies trying to say something, experience economies is trying to say something. I think distributed computing economy is emerging, and there would be financial services, folks who would align with it. Or maybe even a winner. I don't see existing ones, who are trying to do that. Partly because leadership is totally, focused on cost rather than growth, and I can understand that, during this particular time. But frankly, that's a leadership issue. Maybe one huge disruption will happen in a traditional space because let us accept hook into traditional finance hasn't happened to the scale which we want to see. And if once that happens, then people and large corporations will align. Some will die and new ones will emerge. What do I think? I think here new ones will emerge. Older ones most probably will die, and some will survive. And either they will acquire these great companies, or they will align and they will play a second game.
Raj, you want to comment on how the whole blockchain really seems to be reshaping on how people are rethinking money right now? What is the way forward? Do you think it will change the way people save, people borrow right now?
Yes and no. Yes, because I'll tell you what, very frankly, and I think this is anecdotal, but it's true for a lot of us. When you first hear of Bitcoin and you hear of cryptocurrency, you have a lot of prejudice against it. The only thing that keeps you away from cryptocurrency is your own inherent prejudice. So you'd hear that it's used by wrong actors, it's used for drug trafficking, it's used for, it's the online hawala, and you hear a lot of shit about it. And then what happens is that then you start thinking, why is there so much hula boo about it? And then you start dipping your toes into it. And then you start, then you realize that it's not all that bad. So you go in a little bit deeper into it. And then you frankly realize that actually this is truly democratic. This is completely open source, in the age of proprietary systems. It is truly transparent. So, all those people who think that, this is a money laundering paradise and all that, you couldn't be, further from the truth. The blockchain or the Bitcoin blockchain or any blockchain is the most transparent ledger system in the history of mankind. If you were lucky enough to do a transaction way back, say, for example, in 2012, your transaction has been recorded forever, and you're tied to the transaction. Your digital footprint is tied to the transaction, and any enforcement agency that wants to know what you've been up to in a blockchain, it's fairly trivial. It's not difficult for any enforcement agency to find out what you've been up to. So once you get past that misconception, then you realize that a programmable network is magical. There are lots of things that can happen, and frankly, we just, everything is just a ledger, right? At the end of the day, everything in life that you do is a ledger. And if you can automate it, you can add intelligence to it. Frankly, magic is going to happen. And this is truly going to change the lives of a lot of people without us knowing about it, And as Ravinder said, it's just not technology. It's just not money. It's going to be media. It's going to be arts, NFT. You go to Rajasthan, I was in Rajasthan a couple of years ago in Jaisalmer. And the saddest thing is that, those local artisans come to your hotel and then they sing a song, it's typically a young kid and couple coming. And then, you feel guilt, you're staying here, and then you give them some bakshish or whatever. But imagine if these guys, you can support them. They can have a livelihood on the blockchain through NFTs. World over, genuinely talented artisans, the Varli arts, all these guys have a window of opportunity to reach out to the world and get paid in money that they can earn, that they'll never have heard of, or they could have never earned before. So it's a window of opportunity to a whole lot of underprivileged people whose lives are going to be changed. And it's the world is going to be a much better place 10, 15 years down the line, Manisha. That much I can promise you.
So Manisha, to be very specific.
Yeah,
to be very specific to your question, nothing will change. In fact, the way trade happens today, whether you mentioned about lending, which is a micro lending or a lending between two businesses or opening a new business. Okay, with blockchain, it actually comes way more closer to how people want to trade or how they think about trading. Okay, rather than these external processes which germinate and which remain for a longish period of time, and we start thinking, by the way, that's the only way to do trade. No, we don't have time. But if you take any industry, right from aviation to manufacturing to services, each and every industry, how trade happens in those industry, will be affected in a very, very simple way. One, as we have mentioned, transparency. Second thing is cycle time to trade. Cycle time to trade becomes tremendously low by doing it. And in terms of how a person trading with another trading, whether they are lending or whether they are investing, I think this is this brings closure to how people think that they want to trade, which is like, I give you, if I have something, and I take a value out of it.
Rajendra, so what you're saying is that the technology is definitely moving forward. It is changing lives even as we speak, and without us knowing also perhaps. And the speed is quite strong. I mean, it's a lightning speed. I mean, when you talk about other conventional asset classes, it's taken them years and decades, and this one has moved so fast. So my next point really is about, as of now, we're treating it as a parallel universe or perhaps an alternative financial services. Do you see, and we're not even talking about it replacing the conventional banking systems or financial institutions, etc., but do you see, a marriage of convenience or sorts happening as we move ahead from here, and how fast do you see that happen?
Look, and I've mentioned this before. Look, technology basically follows society. Society is actually moving towards distributed society and far more, free, with the exception of few countries. In that respect, I think blockchain will become mainstream very quickly. Of course, there are certain elements of centralized governance which will actually be taken into consideration, and there are a few. But yes, as an asset, correlation between a traditional asset to a crypto asset will happen, already happening. Algorithms becoming simpler and being ranked so that very, very smart people are not exclusive enough. That exclusivity is broken by several layers of algorithms which are written on crypto economy, and anyone can train onto it. Exchanges are become far more democratic. Micro transaction, micro lending is coming in mainstreams with KYC. It's a matter of time it's going to happen, so there would be no excuse. Regulatory environment will become favorable. I don't think there is any other way but to make it favorable. In what shape, we will see. We have seen Singapore. We will see India also.
I want to jump up to another aspect, and that has been stable coins. I mean, they have been talked about so much in the recent few weeks, and we've seen US actually stand up and take a strong notice of that. And the numbers are strong as well, because when you look at the stable coins in circulation, that number from Jan of around 29 billion has jumped to 117 billion as of early September, is the latest numbers that I have right now. And this really seems to be making it faster inroads than many other cryptocurrencies. Raj, do you want to take this up on how are the markets going to look at this? What is the kind of inroads that it really seems to be finding?
It's going to be an interesting time for stablecoins because they'll be under a lot of scrutiny. The SEC chairman, Gary Gensler, he is looking at it very, very seriously. But if you look at the overall pattern of how the US SEC is behaving, he is more going after securities. Anything that says it is a security or acts like a security, smells like a security, behaves like a security. So all he's saying is that if you are behaving like one, you have to conform to the rules. So stable coins, I am guessing. I am no expert, and I don't have a crystal glass, but I think they'll be under a fair lot of scrutiny, and some of them do have dodgy, practices. I won't say more about them, but yes, it will be very, very interesting to see how the entire thing evolves. But I am sure that the way the industry is moving, you have different forms of stable coins also. Without going to the technicalities, you have algorithmic ones and you have, completely asset-backed ones. And I have a sense that, or a feeling that we will be shifting more towards the DAI type of stable coins, which are more algorithmic in nature than the conventional ones that we know of. I won't take names here, but things are going to be tough for stable coins in the years to come.
Rajendra, just taking from the US example that Raj put out. So, when you wake up in the morning in India right now, you check out on what US has done. Clearly, what Europe is putting out in sense of regulations or conversations has been a lot of interest. And then, of course, there is China. So this clearly is a very global phenomena, as we understand. When you are watching this space, and so would do a lot of investors in India for that matter, which country would you look at? What kind of developments would you be keen on?
From the policy making perspective and from a regulatory mechanism perspective, US and Singapore.
And Raj, what are we watching out in India right now? Because that is exactly one question that we hear from everyone. Every time you put something out on a social media, you do an interview, you do an explainer on Twitter. What kind of regulations? What is in the gray right now? What can people look forward
to? That is a simple question to answer. This entire sector is unregulated. It's a gray area. And frankly, I think the Indian government has been, acting in an enlightened manner, because you don't have statements happening every now and then which give the markets a jitters. So they've been very practical about it. They've been very, and they say that, okay, fine. They've been very clear. They say that we are tabling a bill. We will, of course, before the tabling the bill, there will be consultation, public consultation, and then we will see what happens. But as a whole, everyone in the industry has been saying the same thing, that any financial asset needs to be regulated. It needs to be under the purview of a regulator, and it's only a question of when. We'll figure that out how it happens. It's become too big for any drastic action, and this government is far too sensible and practical for it to do anything that others have done. We'll just play the waiting game, and we'll grow the industry, and hopefully things will work out in the end.
Well, yes, fingers crossed on that one. But it is an investors' day and inventors' day rather, and we have seen so many innovations, inventions come in within the cryptocurrency or the blockchain space itself, with the kind of number and use cases we seem to be building and smart contracts that we are seeing in the space. So final comments from both of you, and Raj, why don't you go first? So when we talk about blockchain and transforming the financial sector within, what is the potential? What are the issues that you see going forward? And the third point really is, what is that the investors should keep an eye on too?
So in terms of, it's a good thing you brought out Inventors Day, because I think that in the landscape of financial assets, this is the second biggest financial asset that has been created. I think the first one was issuing of the shares of the East India Company. I think that happened in the 1600s. I truly believe that blockchain and crypto is the next coming, or it's the next financial asset that is truly worthy of being mentioned as the second biggest financial asset. But in terms of scope, I think we've discussed that how path-breaking it is and how life-changing it can be. In terms of returns, I think that all of us, we are not getting any younger, but depending upon your risk appetite, I think that you should be able to put away some money, in this space, because it's simply to learn a little bit more about it. You might not be in it to make money. You might have a lot of it, or you might not be in it. You might be completely risk averse. But the moment you put some money in it, you are invested in it. Then the next time you hear about Bitcoin, your ears will perk up a little bit more. The next time you hear Vitalik speak, you will listen to this mad Russian ramble, something which you can barely understand, and then you'll get more into the rabbit hole, and hopefully we'll convert you from a no-coiner to a Bitcoiner or any other coiner.
And depending on where they really come from, whether they are students or people wanting to spend, just test it on how it works, to people spending lakhs of monies, you perhaps come across all of those kind of people who've invested 500 to 5,000 to a lakh of rupees in cryptocurrencies. But yes, everybody does want to be a part of this technology of where it stands. Your final.
Sorry, I just want to add, Manisha, it's really very interesting, because 55% of all WazirX new users are coming from Tier 2 and Tier 3 towns in India. So, towns such as Sonipat, Ranchi, Lucknow, you don't think that these are, Ranchi, Lucknow, which is UP and Bihar, which are not really prosperous. You would think that would be Gujarat and Punjab and all that. It's there, organic traffic is there. But Bitcoin or crypto has percolated right down into the hinterlands. And surprise, 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 women, the number of women that are coming on or signing up on WazirX has grown by more than 2,000% over the last year. So, viva la revolution, Manisha.
Raj, I don't know if you this, that the kids in my daughter's class also are investing in cryptocurrency. So yes, they do understand that they don't do a dinner outside one day, and they can perhaps make an SIP into cryptocurrencies. So that's exactly how
Your daughter has the right friends, Manisha. You've raised them well.
All right. Yes, Rajendra, why don't you go now?
Look, since it's an Inventors Day, not Investors Day, so I'm going to reply as an engineer. I'm going to reply as an engineer, as a practicing engineer who still codes, and I'm very proud that I code on blockchain, and as a professor who teaches and who learns from my students. So Manisha, 6 things will change, and 6 things, new ways within blockchain will be invented. I'm not bullish on traditional. I don't mince my words on the traditional way finance is done anywhere in the world. First thing, I think, proof of work, proof of stake, today, this concept or this framework will change into something which is far more realistic and reflects society, whether it has high privilege nodes or it is basically, proof of vote versus proof of work. I think that change will happen, and there are tons of, companies and great folks, students who are working on it. That's one. Second one, today, permission by single authority with respect to participants, I think that will change. I think, it would be far more pragmatic by at least more than a single authority. I think that change will happen, and that invention will happen. Ownership under one, typical in a public blockchain, and I'm focusing only on blockchain, on a one single authority or something like that, will get into consortiums, and hopefully so that it is far more accepted and far more realistic, and people are not scared what they are scared who come from a very, very traditional mindset. I think consensus mechanisms will evolve. Whatever networks we have, I think is working for certain use cases. I think that will evolve. Even I don't know, and I don't predict, but because I've seen so many students and so many engineers building so many ways of arriving. But that's a very, very exciting space. Speed is something which when we were all building this blockchain, we thought that, hey, we have built this thing which would be way better than cloud. But when people compare distributed computing with cloud, with it hurts. So I think faster control transaction, less resources is something which hopefully will change, and that goes up to any stack. And the last one, which I leave, Government of India approves of and bullish of blockchain as a technology, which is a relief and which is exciting. But I think they should accept multiple use cases, which may sound disruptive, but they are very, very realistic, and they are very, very democratic in nature. I think, and at least those regulations should come in a very, very clear shape so that it actually becomes formalized. And I see a lot of inventions in that space from a diplomacy and public perspective.
All right. I mean, this debate could just go on, couldn't it? But thank you so much for your time. And those were great final comments. And this was an exciting conversation. Thank you both for your time. And that's all that we have on the show today. And that's the Inventors Day. And we discussed blockchain and transforming the financial sector. Thank you for attending.
Thank you.
Thanks, Manisha. Bye-bye.
Thank you.